We're back for spring ball. Nebraska's kicking off spring ball here this week. We're excited to get started. We'll be in Lincoln at least twice a week for the foreseeable future, for practices, for media availabilities, and so on. So we're excited to get started. But before we get into all of it, Steve, how we're entering, kind of a critical spring as this team looks to make the year three jump. As Matt Rule tries to get this roster, cut down to fit that 105 man limit. There's a lot of position battles, a lot at stake here in this spring. So how are you feeling?
There has been a lot of change, especially on the coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Um, no more Ty Robinson, no more Nash Hutmacher. There's some key pieces from the program that have departed, and so how does it go? Like how are those pieces going to be replaced? It's all part of the deal, and it's going to be fun to watch how this all meshes, especially with some of the new pieces on the coaching staff behind the scenes too in the recruiting department with the new general manager hire with Patrick Stewart. That's going to be fun to follow too. It's just a lot of new stuff, like you said, Tim. And so, when everybody brings up the year three with Matt Rule thing, that's, it's true. He's always kind of made that jump going back to Temple, Baylor, and now everybody's expecting it to happen here. And it's happening just in a time when college football, the college sports in general, is just that landscape is shifting so much and nobody really understands or knows where it's ultimately going to end up. And that's got to be hard to navigate for somebody like Matt Rule.
For sure, yeah. You think back on the past few year three jumps for him at Temple, at Baylor. It was always, developing within the program, getting guys in, year out. By year three, it's some of those guys you brought in that initial recruiting class have stuck around and you developed them. There's some of those guys still on campus, but with the transfer portal and so much turnover, from a coaching staff standpoint, from a roster standpoint too, this is not like any other project Rule is taken on. But weirdly, we've talked about this before, but weirdly, he's better positioned for it, or better, suited for the adjustments college football is going through just because of his experience in the NFL and some of that. Like you think, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be just a different offseason, a different spring. Obviously, no spring ball. That's the first part. Is there's not going to be a traditional spring game, or no spring game. It's going to be a traditional spring game, but on top of that, the transfer portal is going to be open in the midst of Nebraska's spring football practices. So how they balance that will be interesting. They have to get down to this 105 man roster limit.
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to look like? Are guys going to, they feel that they're going to get cut or just quit mid spring? We're just going to randomly hear like it. There's so much could happen this spring that we just haven't seen before in this sport.
We're gonna have to go with the flow because who knows what the heck is gonna happen during spring ball. We don't know quite how the roster churn is gonna happen. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to follow and kind of just go through and see what pops up from day to day because I'm sure it's going to be a day to day type newness for media members covering it, for fans following along. So it's going to be super interesting. Tim, let's talk about some storylines. What's your biggest storyline with the offense? First of all, if you just like kind of set your eyes on the offensive side of the ball, what are some of the biggest storylines? What's the top one that comes to mind for you?
Dana Holgerson, full off season,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of implement what he's got going. Rule has said multiple times, feel like Dana said it multiple times as well. They haven't changed the verbiage necessarily of what they're doing. They haven't changed the language in the playbook necessarily, but you're going to see some new concepts out there. You're going to see, new pairings of things. How much is new? Like, do they make at least in talking to recruits, there's been some mention of the air raid offense coming back. We haven't seen anything to support that necessarily. I'm talking to recruits and recruits kind of mention, the air raid offense has been something of a pitch. It's been mentioned at least where are we going to see Nebraska line up and empty a couple times? We're going to see, three, four wide receiver sets often. I expect they're going to push the ball downfield a little more. That was something I was just completely missing from the offense last year. So I'm just curious in general how much different the Dana Holgorsen offense looks.
Dana Holgerson, Dylan Raiola finally getting that entire offseason together that they did not get last year. It was kind of a speed dating. Like Dana just showed up out of the blue after that UCLA loss, and then the marriage was certified right there. But yeah, having an entire offseason with those two is going to be beneficial, really, really beneficial in my opinion. One of the other storylines that I've had just in the back of my mind when thinking about spring ball, just the offensive line, and specifically getting more specific with the positions, offensive tackle. I mean, it's just going to be there's a ton of injuries in that room right now. A lot of the key guys who you would expect to see during the regular season will not be available because of just routine surgeries that offensive linemen tend to have each offseason, like with their shoulders and stuff. Turner Corcoran, he has that bad hamstring issue that hasn't healed yet. He's not going to be out there. Teddy Prohaska is coming off an ACL. I think it's his third season-ending injury of his career. He's working his way back. Henry Lutovsky, interior lineman, he's going to be kind of a not a full participant, but kind of out there for spring ball. And then Gunnar Gatula, a young redshirt freshman who stepped up at left tackle. He's out for spring as well, nursing just rehabbing shoulder surgery. So the offensive line right now in spring ball is not going to be the offensive line in fall camp when it counts. So it's not the end of the world with the offensive line, but it still kind of raises a bunch of questions like, and the biggest question, I guess, of, who is going to step up with some of those younger guys. The thing that I keep wanting to remember with offensive line is Donovan Raiola is entering his fourth year in the program. That's been the constant. He he's been there and he's done that and he's provided continuity on a staff that hasn't really had it. Just look at the defensive side of the ball with how much change they've had with the coaching staff. But with the offensive, with on offense, Donovan Raiola has really kind of just been there, and I think he's built something. But the tackle situation is something that I'm keeping an eye on. Elijah Pritchett, the transfer from Alabama, which side is he going to play on ultimately? He's probably going to be playing both, getting reps at both as he should. So it's just going to be really, really interesting. Not a whole lot of answers yet, but that's, I guess, what spring ball is for, is getting them out there, getting everybody who can play, get them reps and see where the chips lie in fall camp. So the offensive line situation, especially and specifically the offensive tackle position, is one of the top storylines that I'll be kind of keeping an eye on this spring.
Right. And elsewhere on the offense, I mean, I think the receivers, how that group comes together is going to be fun to track. I don't think I have a lot of faith in the top of that room. Dane Key,
Mm-hmm.
Ja'Cory Barney, and Isaiah Hunter. Feel like you have to throw Hardly Gilmore in there at this point with all the buzz through the winter
Yeah.
conditioning and what the staff feels about him. But how does the rest of the room fall into place? How does the tight end room kind of come together? Like the arsenal of weapons Nebraska puts together and how that puzzle comes together as well. Like, how many different personnels do you think we're going to see here in the spring?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a. So Dana Holgerson during bull prep, he said he's not wanting to turn this program into a four wide receiver spread offense at Nebraska. And so I think you're going to see a lot of 11 personnel. I think you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. And so that kind of speaks to what you said about the tight end room, with Heinrich Harburg entering the fray there and the versatility that he brings, but it's also his first year doing it. So we don't quite know how he's going to react to that. If it's anything close to what he did against Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl, Husker fans should be excited because I thought he did really well. And I thought the staff put him in positions to be successful in the things that he did, whether it was those basic split blocks where he can lower his shoulder and put it into the chest of a defensive end or an edge rusher, or put him in motion, get some different mismatches, have him find some open grass and sit down, or just work on developing his route tree so he can do more than that. I think that Heinrich Harburg in this offense is kind of that hybrid tight end, big bodied receiver guy, can really do some things, and really I think the staff is hoping that he really takes off and runs with this position, and that could really help him out for his future as well at the next level, because at 6'5" and around 235 pounds, who knows how heavy he's going to get up to with this offseason with tight end in the mind. But he could be somebody that NFL staffs are interested in, at least. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Heinrich Harburg's addition to the tight end room, along with a really good blocker in Luke Lindenmeyer, Mac Markway, who was out for this spring, but he's going to enter the fray in fall camp, and we know about his run blocking ability and what he can provide as a receiver. So Nebraska's tight end room is not it's not a set in stone thing right now because of who's available in it for spring ball, but when fall camp starts, I'm going to be really interested in seeing kind of who steps up there. But then also Tim, last thought on the offense probably here, but the running back room. How are we feeling about that? So in my opinion, getting Emmett Johnson back is huge. He never actually entered the portal, but he said he was going to. Dan Holgerson talked to him and convinced him to stay. And I think it's because of the potential that Emmett can have in a Dana Holgerson offense, not only as a runner, but as a pass catcher out of the backfield too. He had a career year as a receiver, Emmett did last season, and I think his ability to catch the ball and run the ball between the tackles and his ability to make guys miss at the second level is really valuable. And I think he's going to be getting as many opportunities as he's had in his entire career in 2025. So Emmett Johnson is kind of a bright spot, but behind him, what we got going on. This is a huge, absolutely huge spring for somebody like Quentin Ives, who backed up Dante Dowdell last season as the big back, the short yardage guy. Now that Dante is transferred to Kentucky, this is the moment for Quentin Ives. We have heard so much about him. He looks fantastic at 6'3" and 210 pounds, but we just haven't seen a lot of him yet. We've only heard these things from practice. It's just such a huge spring for him to be able to show the staff that he belongs at this level in college football and he deserves a spot in the 105. So he's going to be a good one that I'm keeping my eye on, but I know there's others in the running back room. What do you see about the running back room right now, Tim? What we got going on behind Emmett?
I think the competition for running back two is going to come down to Quentin Ives, Kenneth Williams, and Makai Nelson. And personally, my money's on Nelson. Just I think he's the most well-rounded of the three. I think he can do the short yarded stuff, but he can give you enough as a pass catcher, give you enough, at the second and third level if he's able to break one that
Mm-hmm.
I think they can be comfortable with him in that RB2 role or in that next in line behind Emmett. But where do the freshmen slot in? Connor Booth, Jamarian Parker. Jamarian Parker is speed that
Need to
a
see how
few
big he
others,
is.
yeah, and he's
Mm-hmm.
getting bigger, but
Mm-hmm.
but I think he's got speed that others in the room don't really have, like the home run hitting speed the staff really
Yep.
wanted at the position. I think there's a role for at least one of those freshmen. I don't think they're in that running back two competition necessarily, but I think there's a role for one of those guys this spring, and I'm very interested with those two. Just how much we see of them this spring, because yeah, like I think Parker's got the home run hitting ability, but man, don't sleep on Connor Booth. I really liked what I saw from him as a senior, and
Mm-hmm.
I know people kind of scoff at the level of competition, but he does some of the running back stuff really well. Like, he does the change in direction stuff, like the short yard, like he can change directions really well in the short area. Has that ability to kind of move laterally while moving upfield. And I think he just does a good job of staying elusive, keeping his eyes down, running through tackles, protecting the ball. Does all the little things right that again, it may not be this year, but he's a guy I'm very interested to follow his career here at Nebraska, because I think there's best football still ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm super high on Jamarian Parker as well. I noted the size aspect of that. So he's currently listed on the roster, which has been unupdated for a long time. At 5'11" and 175 pounds. Jamarian Parker is probably not 175 pounds right now. We don't know what he's currently weighing, but I would love to see just just him listed a bit bigger, because that'll help me just close my eyes and imagine, can he handle Big Ten football in between, running the ball in between tackles in the Big Ten. So that's going to be something that I'm totally watching when we get to see the opening viewing period of Nebraska's practice on Thursday. I would love to get some eyes on Jamarian Parker and see what he looks like physically, as well as Connor Booth, big kid as well, 210 pounds at 6 feet. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be really fun to watch, those running backs. And the competition behind Emmett Johnson is going to be just hot. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that can do some stuff. Tim, obviously we're going to be seeing some practice on Thursday. Transfer wise, new face wise, are there any guys, like who's your top transfer or new face that you haven't seen yet that you're going to be kind of gravitating towards and you want to get eyes on right away?
Yeah, I mean mine's on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like all of the fun ones are on the defensive side of the ball.
Hmm.
It's Williams and Minari. I'm just
Yeah.
we heard he's up to
Oh yeah.
270 pounds. I want to see what that
Hmm.
looks like. And you know, because I mentioned it, but yeah, I saw him in high school. I saw him last year and in the fall, and yeah, he was close to 255. So I want to see where he's at weight wise, where they're lining him up, what they're doing with him. I think the other one is Elijah Pritchett, just to see where he's
Yep.
at physically, how far along is he? You know, have they added weight to him, had him lose some weight? And yeah, like I think those two, just because I think Pritchard you need in 2025,
He
you
has
know,
to be a hit.
like
Elijah
he
Pritchett
has
has to be a hit.
yeah, at the very least has to be serviceable, you know, and legitimately I think what at times what you saw from him last year can be serviceable in the Big Ten. But there needs to be more consistency there. But you need him to hit this year. But man, if you can get Williams and Neri to hit in 2025, because that's a guy that I think the big jump is coming in 26, but if you can get him to hit in 25 in at the very least a rotational role, that can do a number of things for the defense. So yeah, I mean, I said it on radio on Friday, but I think the room I'm going to be spending the most time early in spring is that defensive line, that edge group specifically. You know, the jack
Hmm.
linebackers, and the defensive ends, because I think they'll be somewhat working together. Williams and Minari,
Yeah.
Deshaun McCullough, uh, Willis McGahee,
Even
Maverick
Maverick Noonan.
Noonan.
Yeah.
Yep,
Hmm.
that's a name I'm very interested to see what happens with him. I
Hmm.
think Keona Davis is going to work at D end some. I think you're going to see, and then on the D line, obviously there's plenty to go. But yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the defensive side of the ball. But I think when we're talking solely transfers, I think all of my
Hmm.
attention is on those defensive guys right now.
I'm right there with you. But so just for the podcast sake, let's go the offense. I'm really interested. Obviously, Elijah Pritchett is one to get some eyes on. He physically looks like a freak, like first guy off the bus stuff right there for sure. But like Isaiah Hunter too. I mean, the guy just looks really, really thick and really strong and somebody who can beat press coverage. And I'd love to get some eyes on him to see what his body looks like. Listed at 6'2", around 210 pounds right now. That's a big wideout. That is a big, freaky dude, and I would love to see him run some routes, catch some passes, stretch his legs, see what he moves like. Because everybody like Dane Key gets the headlines, and that's totally fine. But like I'm really interested in seeing what Isaiah Hunter in a new program, in a new offense with a new quarterback, what he can do to stack onto what he did last year as a redshirt freshman at Cal. So I really love Isaiah Hunter's trajectory, and he's kind of like not getting talked about a whole lot right now. And I kind of like that for him because he can just put his head down and go. And not a lot of, I don't want to say not a lot of expectations because there is expectations with Isaiah Hunter, but for his body size and for what he did last year at Cal, I'm really interested, and I think he fits in the Big Ten. So Isaiah Hunter is one for sure. Rocco Spindler, 6'5", 6'6", 325 pounds. I mean, he's that shoe in to right guard, in my opinion. So getting eyes on him just looks like a mauler out there, and he just is a mature dude who talks well, moves well, blocks well. So Rocco Spindler is another one. And then obviously Hardly Gilmore. I went back to the receiver room. Hardly Gilmore, yeah, Da'Keil Shorts said that Hardly Gilmore has gained some good weight this offseason. How much good weight, we don't know. So I'm really interested to see what he looks like too, because I think Hardly Gilmore, just judging by what he did last year at such a young age in the against SEC defenses, it wasn't a whole lot, but he's going to be entering spring ball healthy. And he didn't enter Kentucky's fall camp healthy last year with the broken collarbone. But yeah, I'm really interested in seeing Hardly Gilmore and see what kind of size he put on.
Right. In the same way that Williams and Minari's the ceiling raiser, I think, for the defense, where if you get him to hit in 2025, it raises not just expectations, but what the defense can achieve this
Mm-hmm.
year. Harley Gilmore in the same way. Like you probably know what you're going to get from Dane Key. That's your true
Yeah.
wide receiver one, your established wide receiver one. You have an
Mm-hmm.
idea what Ja'Cory Barney is going to be. You have an idea what, Isaiah Hunter is going to be. But yeah, if Harley Gilmore is what the staff makes him out to be, and what even players, what Dane Key thinks he can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that raises the ceiling of this offense significantly. And we've talked so much about But I think my last point on the offense is we talk so much about the surrounding weapons and the picture around Dylan Raiola. I mean, we still need him to, I mean, Nebraska still kind of needs him to take a step,
Sure.
and kind of develop. But something I come back to with him is a comment when they asked Dana Holgerson what impressed him the most about Dylan in the short time they'd spent together. And it wasn't any of the physical tools that made him a five-star. It wasn't anything, his lineage in the sport or anything like that. He talked about his knowledge of the game and his how quick he picks things up. And I keep thinking back on that, and I think about, when we talk about what is his offense going to look like, these guys have had 2.5 months now, two football junkies, Dana
Yep.
Holgers and Dylan Raiola, to just
Hmm.
kind of sit and draw stuff up, and I don't know how much they're beating necessarily. Obviously, they're limited by what they can do, but I mean, we've talked to people like Dylan's constantly in the facility. He's working. He's trying to learn new things and grow his knowledge of the game. And I know Dana's going to be smart with how much they put on his plate because you don't want to put too
There's
much
too
like it
much
felt
at
like they
times
did.
last year. It
Yeah,
felt
there was
like it
too
was too
much.
much. Hmm.
But I don't think they're going to do that. But on the flip side of it, like, man, I just those two minds working together, I'm very curious to see what type of offense they put together. Again, we're not going to get a full glimpse of it here in the spring, but I just think we're going to see some wrinkles and we're going to see them do some stuff we haven't seen. But kind of shifting gears, defensive side of the ball. I know we touched a little bit on the defensive line. There's a lot to get figured out in terms of just
Yeah.
replacing Ty Robinson and Nash Hotmacher. We've talked
Hmm.
about the edge group a little bit, but on the interior, I mean, what are you watching this spring?
Well, it's off the field of what I'm watching with the coaching staff because on the defensive side of the ball, let's just go through it. New defensive coordinator in John Butler, new defensive backs coach in Addison Williams, who will be the third new coach in the last 3 years at Nebraska. So there's not a lot of continuity in the DB room in their DB room coaches. So um, Rob Dvorak comes back for the inside linebackers. Um, Again, another new coach in Phil Snow taking over that Jack linebacker room for Jack Potenza, who is currently at Florida State, and then with the D line, Terry Braden taking over for Pot Roast. So there's just a whole lot of new faces on the defensive coaching staff, not to mention just the players. So that's how I'm most interested in is just when we get to see it on Thursday. What are those new coaches like? How are they looking out? What are they looking like out there? Will they mesh with all the other coaches? Phil Snow kind of going all around and coaching different positions on the defense, like he said he was going to, while overseeing John Butler's entire operation. That's going to be what I'm most interested in seeing. I'm sure everybody's excited about the opportunity and they're all going to be friendly with each other. But like at the end of the day, coaches need to mesh with each other too for it to be a successful operation. So that's what I'm most interested in is just seeing how all those new faces on the coaching staff kind of mesh together to create one good solid unit that's better than last year. Because while there's a lot of new stuff on the defense right now, the expectations aren't going to be lowered or anything. They're going to want to improve on what they did last year, even if it's a bunch of new faces on the coaching staff.
For sure, and you're going to see Rule out there. I think with the
Yeah,
defense
that's another
working in
thing. Yeah.
positions,
Hmm.
because I think it's just going to be Dana's offense. He's going to have kind of full oversight on the offensive side of the ball. I think you're going to see Rule getting back to his home base up front with the D line, working with those guys and Terry Braden. Yeah, the off the how the coaches come together. I'm not worried
Hmm.
about it necessarily. I think Addison
No.
Williams and John Butler. I think they'll mesh well just because they both see defense the same way. One former defensive coordinator,
Hmm.
the other one stepping up from secondary coach to defensive coordinator, and just I think they both have an idea of what they're looking for in the secondary. You see the type of targets they're going after on the recruiting trail. They have a similar vision for what they're looking for at the position, what they want that unit to be. Rob Dvorak, I mean, he's worked with so many different people at this point that young as a young coach, is kind of he's the guy like on the other side. Weird as it sounds, kind of like
Yeah.
Donovan Raiola. He's the
Yeah.
consistent one, and you feel good. I think you're most confident in that linebacker room, just
Sure.
picking up where they left off, even with some new faces there, Marquise Watson, Trent, Deshaun McCullough. Like I feel pretty confident in that top four at linebacker. Those two, Vincent Shavers. Javen Wright. I feel pretty confident in those guys. Christian Jones, you expect to be
Hmm.
somewhat in the rotation. Vincent Genatone, Gage Stenger. I'm confident in that linebacker room just because I'm confident in Rob Dvorak and his ability to kind of hang through it and coach his ass off a little bit. He's done a
Yeah.
really good job so far. And then yeah, up front. Terry Braden, first time with college kids, first time really
Yep.
with college, college players. And so he's when we met with him in front of the media, he talked about how excited he was to kind of work on the developmental aspect of this stuff because you don't really get to
Hmm.
do that at the
Hmm.
NFL level. But what does that look like in action? What does that look like in practice with, guys that have are were attached to pot roast? Terrence Knighton did a wonderful job building
Yes.
relationships and keeping guys around and so a lot of these guys are attached to Terrence Knight, and is Braden going to be able to do the same thing? Is his coaching going to go over as well? I'm that's all
Hmm.
stuff where we haven't seen yet. The team hasn't even really like figured that out yet.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look at that defensive line as a whole, you obviously need to replace large shoes to fill with Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher. So do the guys take that next step? Guys like Riley Van Poppel, Elijah Judy, Cam Lenhart, Keona Davis, um, Williams, Waneri will be in that conversation. Deshaun McCullough will play on the line of scrimmage, even though he's not technically a defensive lineman. Jack linebackers, outside linebackers in Nebraska system will play on the line of scrimmage. So yeah, and then in the summer, I mean, they're not going to be here for spring ball, but Cade Peter Jack, Malcolm Simpson, do those guys have enough juice to kind of enter the fray in the summer and then maybe carve out a role somehow in the fall? Who knows? Riley Van Poppel showed that it's possible. He was not there for his first spring ball as a true freshman. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see who steps up. I'm disappointed. It's like a just disappointed that Jalen George isn't gonna be out there because I'm really kind of interested in him. The transfer from East Tennessee State, he's got an injury this spring, so if you're a transfer defensive lineman and you're one of the first guys, Jalen George was one of the first guys that committed in the transfer class. He might have even Tim only like been hit the first one transfer to commit to
It all happened
Nebraska.
so fast. I don't recall off the top of my head, but he
Yeah,
was
I
pretty
know.
early in there.
It was early, but if you're Jalen George, you would really like to be out there, like
Yeah,
if they went out and got you right away. But and then Gabe Moore, who knows what Gabe Moore can provide or even look like, the transfer from
yeah.
Mississippi
No idea
State.
what to expect. He's
No
guy. I'm
idea.
I'm completely going in blind when we get to see him. I think Thursday.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So he didn't play. So this is his third year of college football. He's a transfer from Mississippi State. He hasn't played a snap of college football. He redshirted his first year and then was out with a injury or something that didn't allow him to play.
He was away
Oh,
from the program like
yes,
altogether as a
yeah,
as a sophomore essentially.
yep. And the Mississippi State website has had him listed at 6'4", 290 pounds. Nebraska's online roster right now lists him at 6'4", 250 pounds. So that's a 40-pound difference. And I'm just kind of curious what is going on there. What is the plan with somebody like Gabe Moore? So just a whole bunch of question marks with him. That's one that I'm interested in to find out more about. Like, why was he a take? What can he provide the defensive line or jack linebacker room wherever he ends up at? I have no idea. So yeah, there's just a whole lot of fun things to talk about right now, and I guess that's what spring is for, uh, to get on the field and have the coaches look at these guys and see what they can do and who's good enough to make the 105.
Yeah. Last thought kind of on the defense, I guess getting ahead of myself a little bit. The secondary, whole lot of
Oh yeah.
names there,
Oh
whole
yeah.
lot of names without experience there
Mm-hmm.
that need to step up. The established names, Sierra Wright, Marquez Buford, Deshaun Singleton, those guys are back. Malcolm Hartzog back. But how does the rest of it come together? Do any of these young guys compete? Like, we've kind of talked about do any of these veterans, get pushed to the bench potentially? I've kind of said I feel like there's a chance Malcolm Hartzog gets kind of pushed to the bench or as like a rotational
Mm-hmm.
DB instead of a starter just by someone else. But you've got Caleb Benning in there. You've got Donovan Jones who shined in that Boston College game and
Mm-hmm.
is just continue to at least we continue to hear good things through winter workouts, I guess. Then you've got Amari Sanders, Larry Tarver. There's so many guys. Braylon Pruitt is a unique body in that secondary room. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so many bodies There's, what does a rover look like in John Butler's defense with
Yep.
Under Addison Williams' guidance? How did the safety shake out? Where does Donovan Jones line up? Is he back at corner? Is he
Hmm.
back at safety? There's a lot at this. I think the biggest question is going to be cornerback too. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in who they pick in that safety room. Like, I think they can find a group that works. I think Deshaun Singleton's going to be starter. I think
Hmm.
Marcus Buford's going to be on the field a good bit. Um, but yeah, that second cornerback spot, is it just going to be as simple as Buford, which they did at times last year? Is it going to be Mario Buford? Is it going to be Donovan Jones? Or is it like an Amari Sanders or Bly Hill? I mean,
Perhaps a
Bly
Bly
Hill's another
Hill
guy
with
that,
a healthy knee. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if he was rushed back last year or not with that knee, but that Wisconsin performance, I mean, he did force a fumble, so credit to Bly on that one, but he did have a rough game in that when he was inserted against the Badgers. But yeah, Blythe Hill is one to watch because I feel like he was going to be the starter last year until that spring game injury. And then it just derailed his entire season. It had to be absolutely brutal for Bly. But yeah, but everything that we've heard, everything that I've heard, Bly Hill is doing just fine right now, and so I think that he is one to watch in that corner room as well, opposite of Sear Wright. But yeah, there. I mean, Tim, you just rattled off like I don't know, 15 different names. I mean,
yeah.
it's got to be
There's so many more we
is
just haven't met.
is
Like,
oh
there's
yeah,
so
like
many names
Justin
in that
Rhett.
room.
Like, what's
Yep.
Justin Rhett do at
Andrew
the safety?
Marshall, another
I
transfer
forgot
addition.
about
Like,
Andrew
yep,
Marshall, and he's like probably the top candidate to win the starting
right,
corner job
right.
opposite
That's
of
that's
Sear
that's
Wright.
that's where the room is.
That
There's
is
just a
this
lot of
room.
bodies.
That is where the room is
Yes.
at.
So, yeah, it's the room. I think with we saved it for last just because there's a lot of unknowns right now, and it's going to be a fun, I think, off season. I think within the first 2 weeks we'll have an idea of the hierarchy in that room. But I think there's all spring is where guys rise to the challenge or fall, and so that's where, like, how some of this works out in that room, in the offensive line room, in the wide receiver room. Some of these rooms are going to be ultra competitive this spring. I mean, there's going to be
Mhm.
competition. The staff wants competition, but I mean, some of these rooms in particular, I think the wide receiver DB room, defensive line room, and certain spots along the offensive line are going to be like as competitive as it feels like they've been in a while. Just because there's no safe spots. Like, I'm working on a position battle story that'll be out by the time this video is out, and like, there's like a handful of position battles I can say, okay, these are actually position battles. Other places
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, they're just going to be rotating, so it's fine. Like, it's not really a
Yeah.
position battle. It's going to be enough like, you can't really battle for wide receiver three in this offense. There's going to be so much rotation. Like, wide
Yeah.
receiver three, depending on the matchup, could be it could be Heinrich Haarberg. Like, it
Hmm.
just, like
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult to kind of do these content type things when you know that the coaching staff loves to rotate so many players. So like, is there really like a starter? It's like not really. I guess you can look at snap counts, but like there's not really a starter with a lot of these positions.
Right.
So
It's so
yeah.
situational. I mean, it's also
Oh
situational
yeah.
based on
Yeah.
matchup and everything, and especially with how diverse the sport's getting. I mean, the Big Ten, you see all these different play styles and everything. I mean, personnel is going to be dependent matchup to matchup. But Steve, that'll probably do it
Hmm.
for us with our spring ball
Hmm.
preview. We'll be back with plenty of content now that spring ball's kicking off. We've got rapid recaps from media availabilities. We'll have recruiting blitz as always. Nebraska's going to have visits on campus through spring ball, and there's going to be plenty to talk about from a recruiting standpoint, from a football standpoint. So we're in full go. We're ramping things up here for spring ball. So stay tuned to InsideNebraska.com, the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel. And Steve, that'll do it for us. We're excited for spring ball.
Ready for some football to get going.